Autism, very dominant. The princess. Oh,
Then Kevin was wondering if there was anything back. Right.
You ready? I'm going to assume Ms. Hank's going to, you're going to have to do it anyways. I have to leave at 7:30. I gotta go pick up my wife at the airport.
There's two people. Says on WebEx, so we'll try to get logged in here too.
All right, is Miss Hank on
He
WebEx?
said they weren't commission members.
Okay, all right, well, hopefully she'll be joining us shortly then. All right, here we go. I'd like to call this meeting to order, a regular meeting of the Plan Commission on Monday, September 9th at 6:30 PM in the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom, and also can be accessed via WebEx. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with sections 19.83 and 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all Plan Commissioner members present except for Commissioner Henk, who we are assuming will be joining us shortly. At this time, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of minutes from the Plan Commission meeting of August 26, 2024.
Move approval as presented.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? No discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Motion carries. That then takes us to new business, starting with new business. Item A, a public hearing regarding proposed amendments to the tax incremental district, TID number 9, including amending the district boundaries by adding territory as permitted under Wisconsin statute section 66-1105, subsection 4, subsection H2, and amending the project plan to increase the list of estimated project costs by approximately $4.2 million as permitted under Wisconsin statute section 66.1105, subsection 4, subsection 8.1, followed by consideration and possible action on resolution approving the proposed amendments to the project plan and district boundaries of tax incremental district number 9 on tonight's agenda for public hearing and action. To give us a little background and information on this new business item A, we'll turn the meeting over to our Community Development Director, Jeff Retzloff. Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I'm going to turn it over quickly to Phil Cosson, the village's financial advisor, to introduce this particular item before the public hearing.
Thank you. Good evening. Good to be with you again tonight. Sorry for those who had to hear this once already. You're going to hear it again. We had the initial joint review board meeting prior to this. So we went through the same PowerPoint and then set the final meeting, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. So several months back, we were contacted by the Economic Development Washington County Group, Christian Teschloff and his group about the Sterling Pharma potential expansion. We worked through with them a number of potential structures to assist Sterling Pharma with their expansion plans. From that, we jointly presented in front of the village board back on July 1st. And at that time, the village board voted for us to bring forward this TID amendment to assist Sterling Pharma. This is a relatively simple expansion amendment to the project plan. It includes both amending the boundaries to pick up their property and where they have the potential to expand, add some project costs, and then pick up their potential expansion development from their expansion plans. That's all we're really doing with this amendment. So it's a relatively simple amendment, but I'll jump into TID 9 as maybe a little base building so everybody understands what we're talking about. So this is a real quick summary that we had put together collaboratively with EDWC. TID 9 again was created back in 22, was 38 acres. We amended it back in November 21 of 22 to add the Stonecast Stonecast property, which added about 62 acres. So that's what's there today. We'll show you a map a little bit that kind of lays that out. Really, TID 9 was created in conjunction with the development of the new public works facility. If you recall, we extended water, sewer, streets that serve both the industrial and DPW building site. So it was really a collaborative effort between the use of TIF along with the village needs to support the DPW building with public infrastructure. This amendment is really to accommodate Sterling Pharma and their development plans, which again will change the boundaries and add some project costs. And as I indicated, this is really now a collaboration between the village, EDWC, and Sterling Pharma. that again will result in significant expansions into the village along with additional jobs. 50 plus jobs is the last number I heard that came through EDWC. These are relatively high paying jobs as well. There's a lot of engineering jobs that are associated with this. Really the key here that I wanted to touch on are really two factors. One is there's no upfront incentives being requested from them. Rather, there's going to be a loan provided through the revolving loan fund from Washington County of $1 million. That'll be the responsibility of the tax increment district to pay that back, but that's really a county loan directly to Sterling Pharma. And then future incentives that would be provided to Sterling Pharma based on a very preliminary discussion with them that would come only if they actually undertook their projects. So if they decide not to do their expansions and or there's 5 potential expansions here. One of those, you would not owe that to them. It's only if they undertake their project, and at that point, there's an incentive tied to that. At the current levels that we're talking about, we'd be adding about 4.2 million in project costs. That's if they do everything. But again, no requirement to pay that if they don't. And then we would be looking at about $45 million of new development in the village in return. And their numbers, just so you know, are closer to 80 million. If you understand how taxation happens in Wisconsin, they came forward with what we think would be a significant amount of equipment. Equipment is exempt from property tax. So we can't include that. It's still an investment by the company into the community. So we've scaled back what they have provided from 80 million roughly down to about 45 million for our numbers, just to be more conservative with our estimates. At those more conservative estimates, we are really looking at this district closing out 5 years earlier than the original time frame that was laid out when we created the district. So this, the return on investment, if you will allow for an earlier closeout of the tax increment district. This was the original and First Amendment area. The original area shown in the red boxed in area, that 38 acres, and then the 62 acres that was brought in that has the potential for future expansion. Here are the parcel numbers that were associated with that. Again, looking at that, you can see the DPW building site that kind of sits right between the stone cast and the original 38-acre parcels. We are looking to add the parcels highlighted in green. You can see that to the north of Donjas Bay Road is really Sterling Pharma's campus, along with some additional. They don't own all of that property, but we have to be contiguous. We can't just jump over parcels to get to parcels. So we have to find a way to be contiguous here. So we did pick up some additional parcel to the north. Then to the south, the thought of village staff was that's an area that has potential to be a higher and best use, a higher and better use in that area, potentially an expansion in that area as well. So that's a future that has not been counted on as part of the numbers that we are providing as part of this. So that's the areas. Those are 3 parcels that we are looking to bring into the tax increment district. Those 3 parcels are around 31 acres that'll be brought in. Now the value that is, and this was a question that was raised at the joint review board, the current value of the parcels that are in green is part of the base value and still will be the taxes generated on what's there today will still be distributed to all the taxing bodies. So the county, school, technical college, and the village will all get your share. As Sterling Pharma expands, that increase in tax revenue would stay with the village and would be reinvested into this site and as part of the incentives that are being provided to them as part of their expansion plans. So that's the area to be added. Again, almost 31 acres that would be added to this tax increment district. And here are again, the parcel numbers that are associated with the areas to be brought in. We do bring in, and we always try to boil this down to some numbers to have this make sense. Again, we have worked very closely with EDWC on this project. They really came forward with the original agreement or at least proposed agreement and the proposed structure. And so we've mimicked really their structure as part of this amendment. You can see in the tan shaded area, that is the original area and the development that is occurring and proposed to occur in the original area. And then each of the sections, the columns to the right of that are the 5 different expansions that are being discussed by Sterling Pharma. They have really committed to the initial expansion, and then the subsequent expansions they have brought forward as if things go well, business continues to grow. These are our long-term goals in Germantown. What we learned from Christian Teschlock from EDWC when he was here is that this facility competes against a lot of other facilities, not just in the nation, in the U.S., but also internationally. They are an international firm, and their cost of doing business is more expensive in Germantown than their other facilities. And these incentives will kind of bring them back in line so that they will look to expand in Germantown versus some of their other facilities. So as you can see, they have significant plans, again, around $45 million discounted by us as we discuss the potential tax value that would be received out there. As I indicated, the structure that was really laid out by EDWC that we have provided here as part of the tax increment district amendment calls for the $1 million that would come from Washington County through their revolving loan fund at roughly 5%. That could move, but that's what we're looking at right now. And then from that, each of those subsequent phases is structured so that they receive essentially 33% of the increment that's coming in from each of those phases, with 67% going to the village. That is why we're able to close out the district earlier. The structure of this is laid out so that the return on investment here allows the district to close out earlier. There still has to be a final development agreement put in place. It's being worked on, and I know they're excited about this expansion, the initial expansion in Germantown, but there still has to be a final agreement in place. We always put together a cash flow that shows this is the entirety of the tax increment district. There's a lot going on in this one page, but I'll just kind of summarize it. You currently have one outstanding debt obligation that was taken out for the original industrial buildings that were built just east of the DPW building. And you have a municipal revenue obligation that is tied to that as well. And those are shown here. And then highlighted in the yellow is the loan from the county. That's the first area that's highlighted in yellow. And then the subsequent yellow columns are all those MROs that would come online and be paid back to Sterling Pharma. As you can see here, this district would close out about 7 years earlier than the 20-year allowed life of this district. So really, this is a relatively simple amendment because we're really affecting one company and assisting them as each one of their subsequent expansions come online, and in doing so in a manner that allows the district to close out up to 5 years earlier than what we had previously provided to the village board. From a timing perspective, we held the initial joint review board earlier today. They heard what you just heard. They don't have any action today. They just set their final meeting for October 2nd at 6 p.m. For that to occur, though, we need both plan commission, if you're comfortable with the plan as it is now, tonight to approve a resolution that would forward it on to the village board for next week, Monday, the 16th. And they would take action, and then that would roll back to the joint review board for final action. So this is the first step in that approval process to get this amendment put in place. So we have a project plan, also a full project plan that we have included. I wanted to at least kind of go relatively high level, although you see all the numbers and how they're tied out. But again, we feel like this is a quality development that will provide additional jobs in the area. A company that's been really expanding and stable in the community. And this would enable them to bring their costs down in line with their other facilities and make it attractive so that they have the ability to expand in Germantown.
Thank you, Phil. Commissioners, questions? No questions? Then we can go. Mr. Williams.
So I'm just curious if you can share some more information on the structure of this loan as well as the incentives that you were talking about. So as I understood what you were saying, Washington County is lending $1 million. The village from the tax increments is going to service the debt. Is that correct?
Yeah, so what'll happen is the loan provided by the county would be fully paid back out of the increment that would be generated from Sterling Pharma's expansion.
Okay.
And then after that, for each of the expansions that would take place, there is this MRO, this municipal revenue obligation, which is just a contractual obligation between Sterling Pharma and the village that would have them a portion of their increase in taxes paid back to them as they accomplish each of their different expansions.
Okay.
And so the structure is that a third of the increment that generated in each one of their phases would go back to them, and 2/3 would stay with the village.
So 1/3 plus the debt service.
No, the debt service comes off the top of that.
So that's paid off first.
That's
and then-
paid off
and then
first.
And then
And
they
then
get
it's a
the
third
final
after that.
third
Yep.
and- Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And then how about if the tax increment is not in line with, in terms of timing with the debt service, what happens if we're behind when the debt service is due? And at any point in time, are we at risk to be using funds from the GO bonds to be paying back the debt to the county? So as opposed to tax incremental revenue, we're actually using debt to pay debt. Is that possible?
I don't have a great answer for you on that. And the reason being, I haven't really communicated with EDWC as far as the timing of their loan. My understanding is the timing of their loan would be at substantial completion of their expansion. If that's the case, and that's my understanding, then you will be kind of a guarantee that you have the valuation to make the debt service payments.
Okay, but we'll be out of pocket before we know that. We'll be servicing the debt before.
No, at substantial completion is when the loan would be put in place.
Oh, okay, so it's the
Yeah.
loan is being put in place up front. to
Correct.
Fund the construction. It's being, okay.
Correct. It's going to be, once they have substantial completion is when the loan would be in place.
Okay, so then there's no risk that the village is using debt to pay debt.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And then is there a guarantee or collateral required of the village? So are we guaranteeing this debt in the event that tax increment isn't there?
You will have a development agreement that will have, again, we don't have a final structure of the terms of the agreement yet. But you will have, without a question, some guarantees. You'll have a minimum value guarantee that will be provided by the company for each one of the phases. And you'll likely, again, this is really going to be your attorney that negotiates this.
Sure.
You'll likely have a structure where that if they are short the necessary funds to pay the debt service, then it'll be their responsibility.
Okay, so we're not effectively, the village is not effectively guaranteeing the debt, where if the tax increment is
Correct.
not there, the village is not coming out of pocket to service
Correct.
the debt.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, we can open our public hearing. By hereby stating, a notice is hereby given that the Plan Commission of the Village of Germantown will hold a public hearing on September 9th, 2024 at or about 6:30 PM. The meeting will be held at the Germantown Village Hall Boardroom located on Mequon Road in Germantown and also can be accessed via WebEx. The hearing will be held to provide the public a reasonable opportunity to comment on the proposed amended boundaries of Tax Incremental District Number 9 and the proposed amendments to its project plan. All interested parties will be given a reasonable opportunity to comment on the proposed amended boundaries of the district and the proposed amendments to its project plan. So if there is anyone within our audience or joining us via WebEx that would like to speak for or against the TIF amendment, you're welcome to do so at this time. If you are within our audience, we would ask that you please fill out a yellow slip so that we can get your name and your address correct for the record. Anyone wishing to come forward at this time for public comment and for the public hearing to speak for or against TIF 9 amendment? Can you push the button on the bottom? There you go. And I'll kind of pull the mic a little bit towards you. That way everybody can hear you that's listening in.
I
Thank you.
don't know much about TIDS, and I think if I asked 10 people in this room, they wouldn't be able to explain what this young man just presented to us, okay? All I want to know, if I'm representing, I'm not, but I mean, if I were a president of the Village of Germantown and represented the taxpayers, all I want to know is, what's it going to cost us to give a billion-dollar company a loan? That to me is ridiculous. I would vote no. I would if you want to build here, you should buy the land, build what you need to do, take advantage of a great place to live and do business, and don't put any burden on the taxpayers. I think that's ridiculous for a company of your size. It's nationwide. Why do we have to put on? You don't even know where you're going to be a few years from now, what the economy is going to be. Nobody knows that. You can guarantee anything you want, but if something happens, there is no guarantee. And so, I just don't think we should do it. And I've been pushing the board for time. The taxpayers should have the right to say yes or no. They don't know enough about TIDS, all these charts and everything else. That's not what I want to know as a taxpayer. I want to know what it's going to cost me. Okay, we just got hit in this village with a huge tax appraisal increase on our homes, and it's going to affect all of us to the point where we might be taxed out of living here. It's scary, and I'll talk about that next time. But these TIDs are, I told you, I investigated 452 of them across the country, and they did no advantage to the village that they were in. And I would say no, because I don't know enough about it, and I want to know, what's it going to cost me? That's what I want to know, so I can continue living here at a rate I can afford to live in my home. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward to speak for or against the TID 9 amendments? Thank you.
I mostly have questions tonight. Good evening, Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I am just wondering why this is getting rushed. I mean, this project isn't guaranteed for this particular location because there are other parts of this company that are also vying for these dollars. This is something that the headquarters is going to decide. You're the best combination of options for this money that will help expand. So I don't understand why we wouldn't wait until the money gets turned loose. This is also the second time that this particular business is getting,
Excuse us.
you're pardoned. You're getting that this is the second time that this business is getting benefits from the village by being in a TID. And I don't know if there's any kind of policy that we have about that, but that seems to be something to consider also. There's two big things, though. One is I haven't heard anyone talk about the expansion and the additional chemicals potentially that will be used by the processes being expanded. And the types of chemicals that they use are on the high hazardous list. We've had a lot of conversations lately about hazardous materials. And this particular company uses a lot of kind of dangerous stuff. So I would think that we would want to postpone and take a look at it from a safety standpoint. And there's a bunch of residential that's around that area. If something were to go wrong, that could be bad. But the last question that I have is about the packet that was on the agenda, not only for the Joint Review Board, but also for this one that was posted online. And I don't know why we're giving money back to Manitowoc County and the Manitowoc technical, whatever it's called there. But there seems to be wrong information in the agenda packet, which leads me to ask what else might not be correct in the presentation on the agenda packet. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the amendments to TID number 9?
Scott Heffley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. I'm sure you're going to hear some of the same comments potentially that you heard earlier, and I have a couple of them. So this might be more good for people like Josh. You're newer to the Plan Commission, but Sterling Pharma was in TID 4. I think Mr. Baum and Mr. Walter know that. There was advantages. There's advantages of being a TID. There's as we know already, they wouldn't keep doing it, right? So if you were in a TID and you had the advantage of doing that and building where you are, and I think the way it's presented by EDWC was you can't always just attract shiny new toys. Sometimes you got to help people that want to expand. Well, they have the money to expand. They always have. It's a very successful corporation. Just look it up. They have massive revenue. So, you know, again, okay, so why would we do it? And as mentioned earlier, we have not, to my knowledge, and if I'll be correct, if somebody knows the answer, then present it to the public. I don't know that we have a definitive agreement by the corporate Sterling Pharma to say, yes, we're doing it in Germantown if we give them this package. It's not definitive. I've gone to every meeting. I've followed every meeting. It has not been presented to that regard. If it is, that'd be something great for everybody to know. So if it's not guaranteed, why would we need to do it? Let's find out if it's guaranteed and then give them the package. You know, even though I'm not necessarily in favor for it, let's make sure we have a package. You amend a TID and they don't get the money from corporate and they don't expand. Now where are we at? Now we have a TID and who knows what goes with that. So that's the developer incentives. You know, I know they're built in, all of that. I did notice too, page 35, City of Manitowoc. Why, oh why did we not have Germantown in there? Don't we know how it affects Germantown? Manitowoc is a far way away. I don't know what their structure is, but the TID review should be for Germantown, not City of Manitowoc. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the amendments that are proposed for TID number 9? Anyone else? If there is no one else, this public hearing is now closed. And we then come to the portion of the Plan Commissioners to take action. Commissioners?
I will make a motion to approve the TID amendment as presented.
And are you including the resolution with amendments to the project plan and district boundaries of tax incremental district number 9?
Yes,
Okay,
all the elements that have been presented.
okay. Motion made. I need a second.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Mr. Tarantino.
What happens if they, like they're saying, if they don't get approval to build it from their headquarters, then we approved the TID, then what becomes of it?
I think without a developer's agreement that that has incentives to build it and they don't receive any monies until it's there, I think it just becomes doesn't come through. And part of, I think, what's going to be before the board, when it votes, would be the developer's agreement with with that information as to what they've agreed to corporately and what they're willing to guarantee based on that $1 million that they're getting from the revolving loan fund of the county. Now, the revolving loan fund of the county is separate from anything of the village. That's their loan fund for economic development in Washington County. And we really don't play any part of who they loan money to or beholden to. That's their risk. They send it through their own underwriters and assess their risk from it based on their underwriter information. They have a separate board that assesses that and decides where those monies are loaned to and which companies receive and which companies do not receive.
Then some of the questions that Commissioner Williams had, where would we get those hard-line answers? That sounded like hopefullys or maybes. Where do we get, how would we get the answers to some of the questions you were asking, I guess, ahead of?
Well, most of the answers that I had heard from Mr. Cossin was that the village is not responsible to pay back what they're loaning from the county. We're not on the line for it. It's not coming from the TIF or from our general accounts or from the TIF funds itself.
It's coming from the TIF funds, correct?
Right, from the TIF funds, but not from the village.
So Jeff, everything that I asked and that we went through, from our perspective, are we voting under the assumption that that's the way you guys are going to structure it? Or is that not up to us to be voting on the financial side of it, and that's a different committee? I just want to understand, like, everything that was responded to me, the village isn't going to guarantee the $1 million. The village isn't going to pay anything out of pocket. We're not going to use debt to pay debt. You know, all those questions I had, are we able to vote under the premise that that's the way it's going to be structured?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Phil, if you have a better response, I'd certainly welcome it.
If you have a response, yes.
The development agreement is separate, from the TID plan, and I would expect some of those answers would be able to be provided by the village attorney, who would be working on the development agreement. As it pertains to your specific question, can we include the elements that the questions you asked? Absolutely. I don't have any issue with that at all. I'll respond to two other things just because egg on my face, Manitowoc County does appear in there. The numbers are correct. Wrong label. I apologize for that. That'll be corrected. And secondly, the question was why now? The why now is really driven by EDWC's communication with Sterling Pharma, not us. And their desire to have an answer, to have this one hurdle taken off the table so that they can make a decision as to whether or not they feel like they want to proceed.
Phil, while you're up here, can I ask the question, what happens if Sterling Pharma says, never mind, we're going to build our improvements over in the motherland? What can we undo that we would be doing in terms of the Second Amendment to TID 9? Can we remove the green area?
Certainly, you can, not that you got to go through the same process, unfortunately, to amend a boundary to eliminate parcels. You certainly can do that with any district that you have. You can go back, and after the fact, you can go in and remove the parcels if you choose to. So if they decide not to move forward, no agreement is struck in the future. If you don't want that in the tax increment district, it can be removed.
You just go through the process to do it again.
Yep.
Okay.
Could I ask one follow-up to that? What happens if the village starts putting infrastructure costs into it? So we have expenditures, we issue bonds and after they sign this agreement, they've decided they're not going to move forward. What kind of penalties or damages, et cetera, in the agreement to prevent them from backing out after we've already incurred costs?
There are no infrastructure costs associated with this amendment. The only two costs are the loan from the county and then the separate municipal revenue obligations that are tied to their expansions.
That's the only, that's the only.
Yeah, there's no infrastructure to be added here at all. So there's no way that I could see the village could get out in front of this. Because the loan would come at substantial completion from the county, and the MRO is only paid if they're gonna do their expansion.
The only cost is the $1 million loan being paid back through the tax increments that are being generated, plus the 1/3 of the.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Being paid, okay.
Yep, no other costs are being added.
Cost, okay.
Thank you, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Further discussion? No further discussion? Do roll call vote, please. Is she on? Mic on?
He's on, Liz.
We can go back to up or no. Roll call isn't necessary, but all right, then we'll strike roll call and then, or unless you want to call it, Jeff?
Certainly.
Okay.
We do have a motion to approve resolution 03-2024 that recommends to the village board that the boundaries of tax incremental district number 9 be amended and the amended project plan for the district be approved as presented in the project plan.
Correct.
You want to do roll call?
Yes, please.
Commissioner Tarantino,
Present. So it's
Aye.
aye,
Yes or no?
yes.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Shadid,
Yes.
Commissioner Baum,
Aye.
Chairman and Village President Walter.
Yeah, aye. Motion passes. Next item under new business. Thank you, Phil. Next item under new business is Michael Anderson, agent for GH Industries LLC and Closet Investments, and Mark Mason, property owners, review and action on the following: a 2-lot certified survey map to combine parcels, a site development and building plan application, a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a horticultural services business and snow removal business pursuant to section 17.33, subsection 3 of the zoning code, and a salt or de-icing material storage business pursuant to section 17.40 of the zoning code, all on the property located at North 114, West 18686 Clinton Drive in the Germantown Industrial Park. That is on tonight's agenda for public hearing and action. To give us more background information on this new business item, we'll turn the meeting over to our associate planner, Mr. Yankee.
All right, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Plan Commission. As you mentioned, the case is appearing before you on behalf of Michael Anderson, Green Hills Industry. The subject property is located off of Clinton Drive and it's in the Germantown Industrial Park. So a little bit long-winded summary, but Mike Anderson, agent for Green Hills Industry, as you mentioned in the intro, and appearing on behalf of the property owners, is seeking approval of a certified survey map, multiple conditional use permits, site development, building and sign plans, and also I just mentioned sign plan for horticultural services, snow removal services, and salt or de-icing material storage. As I mentioned, the site is off of Clinton Drive. It's located in the industrial park, and it's also located within a groundwater protection overlay district. Site location here, totaling, we'll get into the acreage, but totals 3 acres. It's zoned M1. And also you'll see on a certified survey map here that that box, the white box basically encompasses 2 existing parcels that will become 1. Adjacent areas are zoned M1 as well, except for the village property to the north. So project summary, it's a new location for Green Hills. They're proposing their business relocation from Menominee Falls to include the horticultural and snow removal services. And then also along with that, the salt or de-icing material storage that would come along with the proposed overall use and business operations. Again, 3-acre site, combination of 2 existing parcels, and it does include building expansion, parking lot improvement, landscaping, and also yard improvements. And there is 1 ground or monument sign proposed with the application. Certified survey map here, as you can see, would propose 1 overall lot totaling 3 acres. The proposal is to combine the properties or parcels, of course, for development purposes, such as setbacks and lot coverage, et cetera, et cetera. So specifically, conditional use permits, horticultural services being proposed is a conditional use in the M1 underlying zoning district. Snow removal services is a conditional use in that district as well. And then also more recently through a series of text amendments, as you'll note in the packet and description there, the salt and de-icing material storage is a prohibited use within a groundwater protection overlay district. However, through information that staff and the village has, an understanding of the prior site and what the code amendments had proposed and been passed at recently, this prohibited use is allowed to request a conditional use permit at the location as a substitution of a prior prohibited use. In the packet, you'll note some of the information about the prior use, and I can let the applicant kind of speak on that more. Specifically, site improvements, the warehouse building improvement would be roughly, it's half and half. There's about 6,400 square feet existing, and there's roughly a 6,100 square foot addition to the north of the existing footprint. The building materials, you have pre-finished metal wall panels, gutters, decorative masonry, stone veneer panels, and overhead doors along with vinyl windows. And the building plans were included, and I'll get to a slide here in a bit. Parking lot expansion, there's 27 spaces proposed, 1 ADA space proposed, and a office trailer location proposed up near the building and the parking area. The contractor supply and storage yard, which is proposed to be located in the existing 2-acre area that would become 1 overall site. Of course, you have a number of storage bins proposed, not only to store stone, but also mulch and other landscaping materials for distribution. You have a salt storage structure proposed as well. 1 new driveway entrance off of Edison Drive, and a dumpster area shown as well. And the surface being proposed in the storage yard and supply area is aggregate stone and asphalt grinding surface. And for stormwater management, a quick overview, there is a 12,000 square foot detention basin being proposed by the design professional team here. That's technically not located on the property, but in working with them and our village engineer, it's being proposed through a easement that would ultimately be recorded along with the certified survey map, et cetera, et cetera. That's to serve the additional runoff to the site. And then there's another easement being proposed to direct drainage flows towards Whitney Drive storm sewer to the east. Proposed site plan here, you can see the same shape with the 3-acre lot. A little bit zoomed in here. The little inlet or existing portion of the building and site is on the bottom half, and the top half is actually that 2-acre essentially square property or rectangular property where the storage yard and the bins would be proposed throughout. And I just made an arrow here where that 12,000 square foot detention basin is proposed, and where flows would be directed to the east. Building plans that were more clear in the packet, pretty standard building addition in a sense with an extension of the building. It is taller as proposed, however, within the height maximum of 45 feet in the district. And the floor plan on the bottom as well, easier to see in the packet, but that's where the existing portion of the building, but now with the newer addition where vehicles and equipment would be stored in a climate controlled environment along with liquid storage tanks to help in terms of the storage of certain liquid materials that would be used, de-icing materials, I should say. These, and the applicant can correct me, these are more example type materials. That's not actually a real rendering. I believe that's a real picture that was sent along by the applicant. One, it's meant to convey certain color or similar color of the building as it would be after the addition, along with some of the stone veneer material. And also on the right, that is supposed to be a picture of a similar concrete wall block that would essentially be the storage bins that are proposed. And they're actually proposed at a height of 8 feet. If you notice around the supply and storage yard where those bins are denoted on the site plan. Landscape plan, new perimeter landscaping, mixture of evergreen and deciduous trees, shrubs and other small plantings that you can see on the plan. New street trees are proposed along Edison Drive in compliance with the ordinance. And then some tree preservation by the Clinton Drive front and other plantings around the existing building. And as I mentioned before, one new illuminated ground monument sign at the Clinton Drive entrance. Landscape plan, hard to see, but mostly the landscaping is proposed around the storage yard, west of it, north along Edison Drive, and then a little bit less in terms of screening on the eastern side, and then also down by the parking area. There is no landscaping proposed on the plan west of the building. Proposed ground signage within the code in terms of square footage. Location appears to match, but of course through conditions and the final sign permit, we'll recommend an electrical permit be submitted and then also denote for sure the precise setback to make sure it complies with the setback from the right of way. The base is in compliant and also shows the address on the concept. Some site renderings here. Top left, of course, entrance off of Clinton Drive with the building. The bottom one is supposed to be essentially a rendering if you're looking from Edison Drive into the storage yard. Here's another zoomed out rendering, and it's really supposed to be an overview, but from the north, from Edison Drive, looking onto the overall site. Some staff comments here, and they were summarized in the packet. The proposed uses are supported by the 2050 comp plan and the industrial park district as industrial type uses are listed as desirable. They are allowed within M1 district and the groundwater protection overlay district, provided conditional use permits are obtained and approved by the village board. And one thing or a couple things that staff noted, we are recommending additional or altered landscaping be proposed. There's a lack of landscaping to the west of the building, screening it to the lot to the west, and also some of the screening and hedge or arborvitae, I should say, along the western portion of the storage yard is proposed at 5 feet, although the concrete bins are 8 feet tall. And also there is some lack of landscaping, in our opinion, along the eastern side of the storage yard, as well as there's, I think, 4 deciduous trees proposed. So we recommend additional landscaping to screen those bins from the property to the east as well. Hard surface paving is recommended. It's actually proposed right now as coarse aggregate and asphalt grindings. The code actually requires off-street parking areas and circulation areas essentially to be hard surface paving. So your typical asphalt or concrete paving is being recommended by staff as a condition. Doesn't change the overall lot coverage as it's proposed as 80% already, and that's right at the maximum. So regardless of it going to hard surface, it would stay at 80%. Other corrections noted in the staff report and conditions of approval, as there's quite a few given the groundwater overlay committee recommendation and the number of cases that are appearing in front of you. couple things really quick, 2 memos included in the packet. Corrections, minor revisions from the village surveyor, village engineer that are included for the record and then would be incorporated with a condition of approval. And then the village forester, we would rely on our forester to look at the recommended landscape additions, alterations, make sure they're in compliance with the types of proposed landscaping. So with all that being said, we have a number of recommendations here. First, it's to approve the 1-lot certified survey map, subject to the one condition in the packet listed, and I have it if we need to read them off or anything. It's recommended to approve the CUPs for horticultural services and snow removal services in the M1 district at the subject location, subject to 7 conditions listed in the packet. And then that being said, the site development building plans submitted by Green Hills are recommended for approval of the building addition, parking lot improvements, the new storage and circulation yard, driveway cut, landscaping installation, all for the property that we've been referencing off of Clinton Drive, subject to A conditions in the packet. Then finally, approval is recommended of the ground sign, subject to 2 conditions in the packet. Finally, Groundwater Technical Review Committee, they reviewed this case in specificity of the salt or de-icing material storage component, since that is required to be a conditional use per recent code amendments as it's substituting prior prohibited use on the site. The committee met on September 4th. They reviewed the number of documents that are on the screen and also in the packet. And really quickly, before I get to the recommendation, we can come back. This is our, basically our wellhead protection map area. And to give you an idea, the star is where the site is, and the overall recharge area and the overall well area is depicted as wells 5 and 7. It's encapsulated by that area, meaning that's what triggers the wellhead protection regulations for this site. So with that, the committee recommended approval of the CUP to allow the salt or de-icing material storage, subject to 7 conditions in the packet. Most of those are provided by the ordinance in and of itself, but then there were 3 additional that were added for monitoring purposes. And that is what I have on that. And it is a public hearing, so can take questions, or at the Plan Commission's direction, the applicant I know wants to speak as well, so.
Commissioners, any questions? Mr. Williams?
Is the CUP staying with the land or with the business? So if the business leaves, does the CUP revert back, and then whoever wants to move to that property has to come back and reapply? Or does it stay with the land so another similar business could move in without us even being aware?
We can restructure the CUP to just run with the current owner operator. We're at this point, it would run with the land unless it's specified in the actual document itself. So if you have a preference in that regard, we should bring that up and discuss it.
And if they leave, then it has to be represented for approval for a new CUP.
Commissioners, any other questions? Representatives, Mr. Tarantino?
Maybe it's a question for them. Do we know how much salt, bulk salt they'll go through? Like, is it a pretty heavy revolution, or is it 10 trucks a day, 20 trucks a day, 50 trucks during a storm, or no?
Yeah, I would recommend the applicant address that.
Okay. We have representatives from the company here. If you'd like to come forward to the podium and make a statement.
The question was just the total number of like.
Yeah, just the volume of traffic when there's an event.
I mean, a lot of the traffic is gonna be, more so, our vehicles. As you know, kind of, it is dependent on, if we actually have a decent winter or not. So I guess I don't really have a super solid, number, but I mean, kind of the storage on site was kind of between 1,000 and 1,200 tons into the dry material or the granular bin.
I just didn't know, like during an event, do you have like 100 contractors that buy from you, or 5 contractors, or is it you're delivering it to the contractors out of the storage bin?
Most of what it is we are delivering a lot of stuff to, to contractors. A lot of it is coming out of the Port of Milwaukee and going direct to, those contractors. It'd be more of the turbo milk granular that may come out of our facility and go, to the contractors. We don't have a ton typically picking up, during the events. A lot of it is, we try to push for people to come, during business hours, to actually pick up stuff.
Can I add to that? I'm Bob Kraus with Yankee and Yankee Surveying and Engineering. There are multiple containment plans involved in this too. The outside salt storage is underneath hoop structures. I'm sure you've seen those before where they're open on one side. They're used a lot in like agricultural and landscaping situations similar to this. So it minimizes the amount of water that would get inside of the, in near the salt pile. Plus, that area is located right up here in this area. I'm not sure how I should stand so everybody can see it, but it's in this area. That area is surrounded on the outside by concrete walls. The hoop structures are on top of the concrete walls in the back end of the area. And then this area in the corner is open for equipment to come in, front end loaders, to come in, load trucks. The entire area is pitched down to a drain. That drain water goes into a 2,500 gallon tank. We might end up bumping that up a little bit. We're finalizing the details on the size of the tank. But that tank pumps into the building where the inside containment tanks are. The largest containment, all of those containment tanks will be 6,250 gallons or less. In that area where the tanks are, the floor is actually dropped down 7.5 inches. What's that, 8.5?
9.25.
9.25, I'm sorry, 9.25, he's making sure we're talking proper numbers. Anyhow, with that containment area, if you turn the hose on, it would take over the 6,250 gallons worth of water sitting there before anything would leak out of the building. That concrete is to be sealed and the inside be pitched to a lower sump where a pump could be put in if a tank leaked. If a tank leaked, it could be pumped back into a different tank or pumped back into a delivery truck. I've done fuel depots, and that's generally the US EPA's requirement, is that one tank in a tank farm is your containment, because it's not likely that all your tanks or multiple tanks are going to leak at the same time. We are also going to end up putting in some sort of plan into effect to monitor that. So if water comes on, a buzzer, light or buzzer, comes on, so that it's automatic that the people nearby are notified. So that's the basic containment plan. So the little bit of salt that would get out would be very minimal. In the documentation sent to the staff, I had stated that more than likely the salt that runs off of the property is going to be the normal amount that somebody would use. To salt their parking lot, their driveway, their stuff like that. So the salt that comes off of this property is very, very, very unlikely to be any more than it would if anybody else used it for a different use. So.
Thank you.
Anything else to add before I open up public hearing? Trustee Ball.
This is the first I'm understanding a hoop structure. Can you elaborate on that?
This is it, right over here. Whoops. So it's 4 walls going up, and the top part is actually a frame and a fabric that covers over the top of it that's held stuff, pulled taut, kind of like a air building where they pump it full of air, except this has bendable metal hoops, as I understand it. And then the structure is, a minimal frame, but it's really just fabric. You wouldn't want to try to heat it The front end is all open. The wall is going up 6 foot tall, and then the hoop structure, I think it was 12 or was it 13?
Total 12, so.
Okay, so 12 foot above the 6 foot tall.
And that is above the dark gray shaded area.
Yes, correct. The hoop
And-
structures are in the dark gray shade.
Okay, and then
Access from the, what it would be, the top left.
North side.
corner.
Yeah.
you say access, what is that concrete hatched area? Are there walls around that on three
That's the
sides?
floor.
Yeah.
It's a concrete floor out there too.
Okay, so that's a
And then-
concrete slab.
And then, yes, a slab, a sealed slab, and then the circle just above the.
Is the drain.
Is the hole, the drain that goes down. So any rain that lands in there would be pumped in, and then that would be used for brine next year.
Okay, so that is a 6 foot tall wall around the concrete floor
Correct.
with a opening in the northwest corner. Director Retzloff, do we have rules, regulations for fabric structures?
We do not have any specific regulations in the industrial park, like covenants per se. But as you're aware, over time, the Plan Commission has approved a variety of materials for use in buildings and structures in the industrial park. This, I don't know, there may be other hoop structures used on a temporary basis elsewhere in the park, but I'm not aware of any specifically. I think this is the first time one has been presented to us as part of a permanent structure.
I'm questioning concerning if it rips, shreds, gets blown apart. That's what I usually see of these.
Yeah, so the brand we're actually using is called Clearspan. They are kind of the top of the line brand. The fabric itself, I believe, has a 20-year, because we use the more heavy duty ones, warranty. And there would be some color options as well on that. We can either do white or we can do like a gray to match the building itself. So everything kind of matches on that. But that is a type, and everything is secured down on there. I don't know if you by chance have, I know we did submit a picture of our kind of current one to the staff.
And like anything else, of course, it would require occasional maintenance.
Okay. That's all I have.
Anything else to add before I open the public hearing?
But yeah, Jordan had touched on the previous uses for the property. The building was built in approximately 1980. It was built by a landscaper who occupied the building, I think, the majority of its life. Then recently, do you know what the time frame was since there's a company in there now which makes the blue or uses the blue chemical that you put in porta potties and in temporary wash sinks, hand wash sinks that for like events or, say like, thinking the music, Lake Michigan, Summerfest. Yes, sorry, I couldn't think of it. For Summerfest. So they use that chemical. In fact, they recently had a spill and the fire department was called in because several employees got sick and ended up in the hospital. And that was inside the building, but that was just recent in the time since we've started this review with the village. That's the current use. The original use, again, was the landscaper. Back in the days in 1980, a normal landscaper would have dumped their salt on the ground and then tarped over the top of it. So the use that we're doing, the proposed use right now, seems to me, and I'd said it in my environmental assessment, that if this was going to be my neighbor, if I owned property next door, I'd much rather have the proposed use than either one of the prior uses.
Well, in the landscape company, just for the record, Naturescape was the name of the company, and we had information from our fire chief that business had operated there, and we also had I believe, internal spreadsheet that they registered with them, I believe, as recently as 2015 for some sort of registration you would do for the fire department. The point being, we don't know the exact date, I guess, off the top of my head, that Naturescape left, but Stop and Go, I believe, to your documentation, has been operating there for a few years.
Right. It's
so
been there for.
Kind of a continuation of these uses that would really be prohibited in terms of chemical use and the salt or de-icing agents originally with Naturescape.
And Mike is thinking that they've been there since 2019 or 2020, the current operation.
Okay, anything else? If not, I can open the public hearing. I open a public hearing by stating the notice is hereby given that a plan commission of the Village of Germantown will hold a public hearing on September 9th at 6:30 PM or later. The meeting will be held at the Germantown Village Hall located on Mequon Road in Germantown and also can be accessed via WebEx. Purpose of a hearing is to hear any parties for or against the conditional use permit applications to allow the operation of a horticultural services business and a snow removal services business pursuant to section 17.33, subsection 3 of the zoning code, and a salt or de-icing material storage business pursuant to section 17.40 of the zoning code on the property located at North 114, West 18686 Clinton Drive in the Germantown Industrial Park. If there is anyone within our audience that'd like to come forward to speak for or against the conditional use permit, or anyone joining us via WebEx, make your intentions known so that the moderator can bring yourself forward. But if there's anyone within our audience that'd like to come forward to speak for or against the conditional use permit, you're welcome to do so at this time. All I would ask is you come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record, and turn in a yellow slip so we can get your name and address correct for the record as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Effley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. I 100% support this business trying to relocate from Menominee Falls to Germantown. I'm not saying stealing, I'm saying relocation. I do like the fact they're coming here to expand. I actually met Mr. Anderson and his business partners, I think way back February, March. I think you've been at it longer than that. But I reviewed the Groundwater Technical Institute meeting. I know, I'm a geek for those things. Also read the engineering report. I didn't understand all of it, but I understand enough. And it just seems to me that we are doing monitoring and protection better than we've ever done it with this property. I mean, 1980 is a long time ago. There was salt stored on a lawn and all that. That's what it was done back in the day. We've got monitoring. We've got wet sumps. They got all sorts of stuff. And I think that they have, gone above and beyond to make sure they really want to be here. And I think we should give them the opportunity to be here and to grow their business and to obviously help support the tax base and all the things that we're after. And I mean, just as a resident, I don't see anything that's, we have the conditions, we have everything, and and I know just based on meeting them that they're going to follow through and they're going to be a good business partner. So I say support them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the conditional use permit?
Good evening, Commissioners. President Walter. I'm Jan Miller, W151 and 10297 Windsong Circle West. I was at the new committee that we had. What was it called? Groundwater, thank you. Committee. It was very enlightening. Green Hills has done everything that they've been asked to make it a safe process. And also, I believe they have many customers within, or a few customers in the Menominee Falls, Waukesha area, and they do some business with Germantown as well. So I think we should support them. I'm behind them, and I think it's great that they're moving from Menominee Falls to Germantown, and I think we should welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Is there anyone else that wishes to come forward at this time to speak for or against the conditional use permit?
Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I support this business moving from Menominee Falls to Germantown. I think they've gone above and beyond the requirements. They had some goalposts moved along the way and had to wait a little bit, but this looks like a really good project to me and would definitely be an improvement on this property and the way in which it is used. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you for coming forward. Does anyone else wish to come forward at this time to speak for or against the conditional use permit? If there is no one else, this public hearing will now be closed, and I must excuse myself. I need to run to the airport to pick up my lovely wife, Carrie, and I cannot be late. So it's up to the board to decide who they would like to fill the spot in my absence. You need an agenda?
No, I got the agenda on.
Okay. So, good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the commission, we need a motion to appoint a new president pro tem.
I move that we appoint trustee Baum as our president pro tem.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, that brings us to needing a motion for the approval of the project. You can do all of them at once, or you can go with every individual one, which there are 1, 2, 3, 4 different sections.
I will move approval of the application, with all 4 sections.
We have a motion to approve all 4 sections with all the conditions of approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Shadid.
I have an ongoing problem personally with the idea of putting this in a wellhead protection area. I think there are options for other places. I don't disagree with people's assessment of the credibility of the applicant, but I just have a problem with it.
Okay. Further discussion, further comments? Any retort to the comments?
Well, I would just, and it's kind of like we can come back up or how
If
it
you
works.
wish him to answer a question, we can bring him back forward.
So I'm just, it's not a secret that this is what I do. So if I don't want it to come across any sort of bias, but just the problems that arise for me or for our business with this scenario is the amount of dust. I know this building will look great. It'll look 100 times better than it does now. Everything laid out looks awesome. Where we are at, our materials are 600 to 700 feet from other buildings, and we get complaints constantly about dust. When you dump debris or dump mulch or dirt into a truck and it goes airborne, it goes a ways. It goes a distance. Also with the gravel pavement, there's another element to that where it's like on a day like today, it's just a dust bowl. On this tight of a facility, how would you be able to mitigate the dust? I think that would be a real complaint that you might encounter from other business owners or right across the street, the fire department,
Okay.
It's just,
Would you like to have the applicant come back and give you an explanation of what they intend to do?
sure. Well, I know part of the conditions is that it's paved, right?
Correct.
And that's gonna help
The parking lot is paved.
We conditioned the storage yard area, circulation area per code to be paved as well, as it calls for a asphalt or concrete surface in the code.
Okay.
That being said, we did call out in the packet as well in the staff memo that those points should be clarified as well in front of the plan commission by the applicant. So I think your question is pointed and well worth it.
Mr. Anderson, would you like to come forward and address that concern?
Okay, First of all, what we're proposing and hoping that the village can find the ability to approve is that the back parking area, the big square area, would be asphalt grindings over the top, which would greatly minimize any kind of gravel dust. And the nice thing with asphalt grindings is they could be repushed and reflattened out. As you're turning around big equipment, it's hard on the tires on pavement and it's hard on the pavement because of the forces that you're dealing with large equipment tires. The other big thing is that the area, as we're talking, the bins are pretty near completely surround the area. The hoop structure is over here, and then you've got building down here. So there's going to be very little wind inside in the actual work area. There's going to be an 8-foot tall wall all the way around the outside of it. And then the individual walls on the bins, all of that's going to minimize the amount of air, amount of wind that blows through there. Is there going to be some? Yes, absolutely. There's going to be some, but far less than in a normal yard for this area, where it's generally a gravel area out in the middle of a flat area.
Are the bin floors paved?
Yes, they are.
Concrete.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just basically making I don't know, I'm just having a conversation. It's, when you dump mulch and it spills off the truck and it gets ground into the gravel from the loader over 2 years, you don't have asphalt millings anymore. You have like moon dust with rocks in it. So you can stomp your foot and get a cloud of dust. So it's, and that's just from my experience. I have the same exact scenario.
Okay.
So I'm just,
If the neighbors have issues, what's the conflict resolution scenario?
Well, I guess first off, staff recommended a condition for it to be paved. So that'd be the first point of conversation by the Plan Commission, whether or not that condition would go forward. Then the reason why we're recommending that, and we did reference it in a meeting with the applicant, I believe in early August, in terms of the area not being a hard surface pavement and the code requiring it, is that we wanted to point it out, and we get to this point, and point is that we're conditioning it to be in compliance with the ordinance. Now, that being said, I'll also say that there is some interpretation with that. It is a storage yard. The code calls for off-street parking and circulation areas, so I don't know if all of that in Plan Commission's opinion would need to be paved or not, but that's what the condition is. As far as, conflict resolution, we did condition the case as well for if we do receive complaints that basically the applicant, the village, would work in unison to address those complaints and come with basically a result to rectify those situations with nearby owners. And maybe Jeff has something to add too, but.
Yes.
First of all, the condition Jordan is referring to is number 7 under the CUP recommended conditions for horticultural services and snow removal services. And it follows up on a language in the staff report that acknowledges that this type of use heretofore has been allowed and is typically located in agriculturally zoned areas where there are larger setbacks and not other buildings with other potentially incompatible uses going on, at least not in as close proximity as in this case with this use proposed in the middle of the industrial park. Thus, the allowing it only as a conditional use permit where these sorts of issues can be vetted and appropriate conditions attached to address those. And the wording of number 7 says, pursuant to section 17.47 of the zoning code, which is the performance standards section that applies to M1 zoned properties, if the village observes and or receives complaints regarding negative impacts associated with and or created by business-related activities conducted on the property, including but not limited to noise, dust, or other airborne materials, the property owner operator shall work with the village to identify the source of such impacts, evaluate alternative mitigation measures, and implement a mutually agreeable solution to mitigating the impacts. Granted, it's a little vague, but we don't know what the particular impact might be. If you wanted to add items in here as sort of for example, it could be some sort of dust mitigating measures. I think one of your employees mentioned in a meeting that you have some kind of system to address dust. I don't know if it was some sort of spraying system or what, but
Yeah, it's actually called our dust guard. Essentially that's a liquid that goes on that acts as a binder. So if we were to be using any millings or anything like that, that can be sprayed down. Typically they would spray it on construction sites maybe once a week. Maybe a good option for your yard as well. Yeah, that's a very economical product, and it's I don't have any pamphlets with me on it, but I can certainly get you guys all the information for that product.
Further discussion?
Jeff, does it require an amendment for me to add the condition that the CUP moves only with the business and not into perpetuity?
I think that would be an appropriate point to add.
Add,
Yeah.
okay. Can you do it or you want?
Your motion would be a motion to amend to add an additional condition for the CUP to terminate if the current ownership changes hands. The ownership changes hands.
Correct, or they leave the village.
Yes. That is your motion. Do I hear a second? You have a motion and a second for an amendment. Any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carries 3-1. Goes back to the original motion to approve all sections with all the conditions. Mr. Shadid, to address your concern about the water issue, we have a committee, the Groundwater Technical Review Committee, that this did go before. They have 7 conditions that they asked for. That is part of all the containment that the applicants have spoke of, and that is a higher grade design than is currently implemented in this location. And therefore you are increasing the safety, therefore we can allow this use to go here, the way I understood all the discussions we've had.
Yeah, that's a fair characterization of it.
I was not able to attend that meeting. I had a conflict. I wish I would have gone.
Yep.
Wish I could have gone. However, I guess I would ask this question of my co-hosts on it. How do you all feel about it? I mean, you feel like it's a reasonable use of technology to prevent a problem?
Me personally, yes, I'm comfortable with what has been put in place and the contamination protection that they are affording to the village that wasn't there in the past. Anybody else wish
I
to
agree with that.
comment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
If you're moving on, I just have a quick question. It concerns the materials and color scheme for the building addition and the hoop structure. I know there were some renderings that were included in the packet, and Jordan went through those rather quickly. And I think the comment was that what was shown on the rendering or in the photograph isn't the color that's proposed. Is that correct? And if not, what is the colors and materials that are proposed so the plan commission can act accordingly?
Mike, do you want to clarify?
Yeah, so we were under a little bit of a tighter timeline to get 3D renderings done for this to be here. So we kind of had to use the software we had on hand. And unfortunately, it allows us to get kind of close to it, but it does not allow, things like the wainscoting and stuff like that. That building there to the left is the exact color scheme, the charcoal gray and the midnight black trim, along with that picture. That the brick veneer is the exact brick veneer. So, and the current building would be revitalized as well to match.
And the 8-foot tall wall that you speak of is gonna look like that with some type of a brick pattern to it?
Yep, yeah, so that would be a picture of the actual brick wall, just one located in Landon. Actually, it's right off of Good Hope Lakeshore Burial Vault, if anybody wants to drive by and kind of take a look at it. The only difference with ours is we were going to essentially acid stain it to match the charcoal gray, just so the art is extremely uniform looking.
Okay. Everybody understand that? Okay. That's good with you? All right. Further discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Williams.
One quick question. You guys have mentioned the company that's currently located there and there is a spill, and I know the chemicals that they're utilizing are hazardous. Is your lender requiring you to complete environmental phase, at least one, before you purchase the land, to make sure are no contamination issues or any other environmental issues on the property?
Yes, well, that's already completed. We have an 834-page phase 1 environmental on the property.
Okay. Further questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, all in favor of the motion with the one amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Welcome to the village. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
That takes us to item C on the agenda, which is John Coots from MSI General, Agent for Mold Makers Investment LLC, property owner, and MGS Manufacturing Group, Inc., is requesting approval of the revision to landscaping plans for the 118,000 square foot industrial building addition to the MGS Medical Manufacturing Campus located at West 188 North 11707 Maple Road in the Germantown Industrial Park. Director Retzloff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in 2023, MGS added their Innovation Center. It was approximately 120,000 square foot addition, shown sort of in the shaded orange on the screen in the southeast corner of their campus, right along Maple Road. As part of that expansion, there was a landscape plan that was approved that reflected a series of the existing maple trees. In fact, you can see them on the rendering here. And also in the plan that was presented here along Maple Road, and this photograph that was taken and provided by the applicant. This is looking from the east towards the west, Maple Road in front, and you can see the rather large mature maple trees that are located along Maple Road. They're actually not in the right of way. They're on private property, but they were installed 25 to 30 years ago to comply with and satisfy the village's street tree requirements at that point in time. As indicated in their cover letter, they would like to remove 10 of those trees out in front, essentially to remove the rather complete visual barrier that exists by virtue of the mature trees, to enable a view of the building addition and the headquarters of the MGS Medical Manufacturing Facility. As a mitigation measure, they are proposing to install 12 new deciduous trees that would qualify and meet the village's street tree requirements. They would be planted, at this point, they're showing in the plan clustering, 4 clusters of 3 trees per cluster to replace the 10 trees that are being removed. To meet the most recently approved comprehensive tree plan for the village. They're not going to be maple trees. They're going to be a combination of hackberry and maidenhair, 2 different species that are approved as street trees under the village's tree plan. In review of the plan, the village forester has some minor comments, some suggested revisions to the spacing and also with regard to the overall landscaping plan that was provided, the revisions to it with respect to some of the species. So those comments are included in the staff report, but ultimately the staff recommendation is to approve the proposed revised landscape plan that removes the 10 trees along Maple Road, replaces them with 12 street trees as shown in the plan, and some other minor modifications to the landscape islands in the parking area, subject to 3 conditions. And those are included in the staff report. We can discuss them if necessary.
Okay, commission members, we have a motion.
I will move that we approve the proposal as documented with the 3 conditions.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Director Retzloff, the further staff recommendations from the forestry department, those are inclusive in one of these 3?
Yes, condition number 3 requires a revised landscape plan to reflect and address the comments of the village forester.
Okay. All right, any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is citizen input and public appearance. Please be advised per 19.84 parent 2 that information and comment will be received from the public. It is the policy of the municipality that public input be limited to 3 minutes per person, with time extension granted at the discretion of the chairperson. Be advised that there may be limited discussion on the information received, but no action will be taken under public comment. Ms. Larson.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. These are just kind of some random comments in no particular order. Thank you to Commissioner Williams for the excellent questions on the TID tonight. That was very insightful in terms of fund debt. And I believe you probably will see more TIDs coming your way. And so I hope that you are asking the very same questions and doing a deeper dive on those. I think often it's very easy to feel pressured to make a decision. You always have the ability as a committee member to table something until they bring you definitive answers. Clearly, the Ehlers rep, I kind of feel like he was maybe shooting from the hip a little bit, and there weren't some definitive things. And hopefully we won't have to find out if the truth lies where it does, and that things will go as planned. Then I think it was very poor planning. You were supposed to have the school board representative joining the commission. And this isn't so much pertaining to you all directly, but another example of why we need to have an RFP for legal services. When the amendment to the ordinance was on the village board, common sense would have said that they would have made the appointment then and handled that so that the school board representative could have joined you tonight. I'm sure it was not done that way because there would have been the opportunity to comment on the TID. The hoops that Green Hills has jumped through now to join Germantown has been ridiculous. And so then in terms of when you look at the chemical potential that Sterling Pharma has, I know someone who works in the building next to Sterling, and when outside businesses go for a week or more with a headache because of the chemical that is coming off of that building, when they bring their building plans, I hope that you make them run around 20 blocks compared to what Green Hills has had to go through to join our community. Because isn't the point to get new businesses to want to come to Germantown? I think this is a continual head scratch as to why we are not business friendly. And then when we're looking at the MGS and their diagram, why don't we give MGS a TID? Look at how many times they've expanded and enhanced our community. And they somehow have the money and aren't asking for tax kickbacks in order to fund their projects. So just something to think about. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wishing to come forward? Please turn in your slip and state your name and address at the microphone.
I think this is a record 3 times. Okay, Melanie Smythe, N140W173938 Cedar Lane. First of all, I have a request. I noticed that in the minutes, and in comments from the public, it doesn't actually say what we spoke about. It just says that we said something. So I'm asking that at least 1 or 2 sentences, since we do put that on the sheets, or at least some of us do, that the subjects are discussed. I did have an opportunity to look at the phase 1 for the Green Hills project, and I'm surprised that you guys didn't have that. If you look at it, there are quite a few businesses in that area with much worse high hazard chemicals in the water wellhead. So it is something that perhaps you may be interested in asking for and looking at, because it would inform you should other businesses come forward about what's going on there. Some of it is a little surprising. And then the only other thing I would want to say is that perhaps there needs to be a look at some point of streamlining small business permitting processes. It seems like it's, whether you're a huge conglomerate, international company, you're treated the same way. They have a lot more time, they have a lot more resources. Small businesses need to get into business quickly. I know this from being involved with restaurants. The sooner the restaurant is in business, the sooner they can make money. They don't have an awful lot of money. So I'm just suggesting that maybe at some point a process improvement would be to think about how to make things not less laws or rules about what their buildings are, but streamlining the process so that they can be helped to get into business sooner. And I'm talking mostly about locals who will more than likely not have huge pocketbooks. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wishing to come forward? Seeing none, is there anybody online that wishes to speak? Nope. Okay, that brings us to the next agenda, which is item 6, which is announcements. Because I'm stepping in, I do not have any announcements, which I can then adjourn this meeting at 8:10. Thank you.
So,